I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what? Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the Bum!
And here we go.
oh yeah!
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
He did what?
A ground ball past Jenks up the middle of the infield. Uribe has it. He throws. Out! A White Sox winner and a world championship. The White Sox have won the World Series, and they're mobbing each other on the field.
You golden blank staggered black stone and blinkety black punk, are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Kobe Bryant on the move against Christie. In for the right. Flips his shot up. No good. O'Neal lays it up. Missed it. Ball tipped out to Ori. Straight on three. Good! The Lakers have won! Robert Ory's greatest hits tour continues.
Oh, no doubt about it. He's got to be getting a Grammy for that one.
Good morning and welcome to the Manic Monday edition of Snowman in the Morning. You can follow along with us on social media by dialing up SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. You can also log on to Snowman Digital Media for all of our great conversations from this show, as well as others produced by Snowman Digital Media. This is the best sports talk show you haven't heard of until now. You can hear us every Monday, which is today, through Friday on all of our great stations and networks in the region, across the nation, and around the world, and across the internet. And the podcast version of this here show will be available right after this show is completed. You ready to get into it? Good. Let's get started. Man, lots to do today. Got some great guests for you, and you'll know who those are throughout the course of the show. But I'm going to bring back a tradition, or something I like to call a tradition, to kick off the show. And that tradition is in the form of a funny husband story. I've been married nearly a year now to the love of my life, my precious Dr. K. And we recently went road tripping. We took a road trip to, get away for a little bit, have some time with each other, and pay a visit to my stepson, who I affectionately call my son because I really believe that he is. And I believe that because, spending time with him and getting to know him, he's so much like me. He's such a goofball, but doggone it, the kid's got his act together, or he's getting his act together, and I love that. I love that about him. But wife and I went road tripping, and driving through the mountains, different things, and we just had some fun. We just had some fun. Of course, we had to plug in the audiobook. We couldn't take a road trip without Eve and Rourke, and those of you who know J.D. Robb will know those characters. There were so many things said that Rourke says to Eve during one of the books we were listening to, and my wife just looked right at me. She had this incredulous look with a big old smile, and I'm like, what? I wouldn't say those kind, and I cut myself off, and she starts laughing, and I go, of course I'd say those things. You know that. And then, Eve would say something, and in character, I would just point at her. And I love her for this, and it makes me laugh every time. She goes, do you think I would really, really say that? And before I could answer, she would just look at me and give me the finger. That finger point, that finger point that a mom will give to her children, because she considers me one of her biggest children. My wife does, and I love it. We just had a chance to be goofy and get away for a couple of days. Did the show Friday, actually from Indiana. But we're back home, and it was a lot of fun. It was a road trip that needed to be taken, And as I said, it just allowed us a little bit of time to get away, to be goofy, to have fun, listen to the radio, blast some music, listen to some audiobooks. And husbands, let me tell you something. If you get a chance to take a road trip with your wife, take it. Because you never know what'll come out of it. You'll never know what you'll talk about. You'll never know what'll happen. And maybe it'll be one of those times where you just have to get away, where you guys just feel, okay, we need to do this. We need to get out of here for a while. So that's my funny husband story. We just had a chance to be goofy and have fun and tell jokes and laugh, and seriously laugh. And we had just been so bogged down with reality and everything that's going on in the world. You know, we usually get up, go to work, and then come back. She fires up her side of the studio. I fire up mine, and we do the show. But we had a chance to get away, put some put some plans in place. This is why I hate rushing back home, because I have an idea of what I'm going to do, but it's just so crazy. But I had a blast. I absolutely had a blast. She had a blast. We're back home. We're safe, and we want you guys to stay home and stay safe while preventing the spread of this coronavirus. And who knows? Later this week, I may have a letter that an idea for a letter or an email that I will borrow from a couple of friends of mine. But yeah, that's the funny husband story for today. I'll have another one tomorrow, and I don't know which one I'm going to pull out of the bag. I've gotten so many of them, or I've gotten into so many of them, but I'll pull one out of the bag for tomorrow. So I had to hit you with that one to start the day off right and start the week off right. And speaking of starting the week off right, the next voice you hear will be that of one of my very dear friends in Cole Johnson. And we got a lot on the table. Speaking of a lot on the table, today I am so excited for today's show to kick off the week right, because at the top of hour 2, you'll hear the voice of 7-time Pro Bowler and former Miami Dolphin Richmond Webb. That's right. The 7-time Pro Bowler will be on this program, but you're going to have to wait to hear it. That'll be at the top of hour 2. And at the top of hour 3, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum himself, in Bob Kendrick, is going to join me. And one of my other good buddies, Quervante Hurd, will close the show. You know how we do it here. Sit back, relax, and strap it down. We're going to really get started. Cole Johnson, after the break.
Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
So, a friend of mine and I dropped an hour-long conversation in the form of A, an interview for this program, and B, a podcast for the Snowman in the Morning podcast and other ones that I do via Snowman Digital Media. And for lack of a better term, some people got butthurt over it. Good. Maybe now you'll do your research before you decide to challenge me. And the friend I did it with is on the other side of the hotline, Mr. Cole Johnson, the man in charge of Cole Sports, and he joins me now. How are you, my friend?
Doing good.
Why do people get so butthurt when we drop facts about LeBron? I'll just start there and we'll just dive right in.
You know, I really think they have formed this bond with a player like a LeBron James, and they live vicariously through him. And I don't get why such the hardcore attachment. Like one of the criticisms that our last conversation brought forth, saying that to call a certain section of fans, I guess you could say a negative name, is a turnoff. Well, there's this old school saying, and it is true all down the line, and it is hit dogs hollow. So on my show, I have demonstrated what is the difference between a regular LeBron James fan and a bronsexual.
Mm-hmm.
So
great demonstration.
In my mind, thank you. Now, in my mind as well as yours, you know there's a difference. I know there's a difference. We don't call all people who love LeBron James bronsexuals.
No.
Because the fandom is much different, because people who are legit fans of the guy actually have, words like objectivity. Words like accountability. Words like truth. You know, all these things actually apply to a LeBron James fan. I know them. I have befriended them. They exist.
Yes, they
and
do.
They exist to the point where they exist to the point where they say, you know what, my favorite player is LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen better players than him.
Yeah.
And other players have achieved more than he has.
Mm-hmm.
That is a LeBron James fan.
Yes.
A bronsexual is one where they say, well, okay, so Jordan is 6 for 6 in the finals. What did you do in the first round? Because my boy has never lost in the first round. Kobe Bryant, 5 for 7 for championships.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what did LeBron do when he played against Kobe? 16 to 6. See, they ain't that good. They have this insatiable appetite to chop, to uplift their man at the expense of others who have come before him. And you and I, more than likely, are addressing that other lack of respect.
Yep.
And so when I hear criticisms like that, I love the fact that they get the mirror turned on them and they see, oh wow, so you mean tell me my fandom is actually borderline stalkerish and ugly? And you have the nerve to point this out to me? Well, forget you.
Oh man.
And I think that is what you're seeing. And that is what I'm seeing.
I sent you some screenshots of a group that I was formerly in, and you and I were just laughing for a good hour with all of the comments that I got after I dropped that podcast and we dropped that knowledge on them. See, bronsexuals do not like truth and knowledge, okay? And one of my favorite comments, and I'm going to give you the floor on this, was two simple words: credibility lost when it came to my discussion of LeBron and the NBA. The floor is yours.
Credibility lost. All right, I will go to, I'll borrow your words actually in said conversation that we had, where you said that LeBron is a great athlete.
Mm-hmm.
From the Find a Lie department, I can't find it. You also said that he lacks being a complete basketball player.
Yes.
Again from the Find a Lie department, I can't locate it. And if they have issue with you or me saying that, well, fine. They may have issue with you and me saying that. However, I know of a former NBA player. He now is the bomb in China, Stephon Marbury, who ranted about the fact that, well, that's sort of true in his mind, because in his definition, there's three words he says about LeBron: you can't shoot. So again, from the Find a Lie department, I can't find a lie there. So
how many times have I said LeBron needed it? How many times have I said that LeBron needed a jump shot, a consistent jump shot? I've said that
since I've known you.
I've said he needed a post game, because you can't bully your way to the basket and travel 90% of the time and get away with it. I also said he needs to, I don't know, make some free throws late.
And there, when they try to compare Jordan and Kobe to LeBron, I just go there. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I had a conversation with LeBron session where when he was,
I knew it was coming.
when he was just listing all the platitudes that LeBron has,
mm-hmm.
and he was hitting me with his sort of facts, and I came back with facts on my end of, okay, that may be true, but this is also true, and you're refuting all this. Here it is. One of the things that I said to him was, you're saying that this guy is bigger, stronger, faster, better. I could see bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I could see stronger. I could probably even see faster to a degree. Better?
No.
Let's go to the free throw line. I mean, both Kobe and Jordan, they were hitting free throws at an 83 to 84% clip for a career.
Yep.
LeBron James, and no, this isn't slander, ladies and gentlemen, he has never shot 80% from the field from the free throw line in any season he's played.
Yep. And that covers 17 years.
So that right there proves your statement correct and my statement correct, and it is not being or it's not being butthurt.
No.
Or not trying to hold the guide on for another player. Your eyes see the same thing my eyes see. Wow, okay. He has some skills, but there are a whole ton of holes in him.
Mm-hmm.
And the free throw line is just one of them.
I've been consistent with this argument for his entire career, and I will continue to be consistent with this argument. And I'll give you another one that you and I both agree on, that the bronsexuals don't. Someone mentioned to me at my job that LeBron James has changed the game. I looked him in the eyes and I said, no, sir, he hasn't. He nearly dropped his coffee. And he actually said this to me, and I'll borrow from you. Quote, how can you say such a thing about the greatest player ever? Close quote. I knew you'd get a kick out of that. And my response my response is going to give you an even bigger kick out of it. I looked him dead in the eye, and I said, LeBron James has not changed the game. I can tell you a few people who have. He said, well, lay them on me. Let's see. Will Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, Magic Johnson, the King, Michael Jordan, and the Splash Brothers. And I got a look of fire from his eyes when I mentioned the Splash Brothers. And he said, what did they ever do? Let's see. 3 for 5 in the World Championship Series. Let's see. The most dynamic shooting backcourt that we've seen in a long time, if ever.
Heck, I'll go with ever.
I mean, the most dynamic shooting backcourt we've ever seen. And they've done something LeBron hasn't done. He says, what's that? They have taken an anomaly and have turned it into a weapon. And he says, what are you talking about? How many teams do you see attempting at least 30 3-point field goals a game?
I know of one.
The response I got from him, nothing but crickets. And I patted him on the shoulder. And I said, find the lie with the Splash Brothers. I patted him on the shoulder and I walked off. He has not spoken to me since, and I said that 3 weeks ago. To the point, ladies and gentlemen, where if I walk by and he's talking basketball and I drop a little nugget of knowledge, his response is, and you better hold on to your seats. Oh, go away. You don't know anything about basketball. I walked off smiling. I only said for 17 years that I've watched him play, LeBron is a phenomenal athlete, but an incomplete basketball player. So someone made the argument, oh, he can guard 1 through 5. Oh, yeah? There's a fellow named Magic Johnson who did it first.
And did it his rookie season.
1980. Oh, and by the way, folks, that came in Philadelphia against the Philadelphia 76ers when they were minus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had a migraine. And he injured himself in Game 5, and he had a migraine. Yeah. And Magic Johnson said, never fear, Magic's here. That was to Paul Westhead, who was the coach at the time, and he stepped in and played center.
Yep.
And nearly threw a triple-double at Philadelphia. 42 points.
3-6 shy of it.
Yep. 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists. And, I know they didn't make unanimous votes back then, but Brent Musburger said he was the unanimous most valuable player. And I'm not arguing that fact.
R2.
I knew you would get a kick out of that.
I love the silent treatment you received. Not that you get that you're getting the silent treatment, but I'm loving the fact that you received the silent treatment from the fact you presented facts to this guy about how the Splash Brothers have changed the game. I mean, the fact that he pushes back to you on that, it just tells me he doesn't even look at the game.
Nope.
I mean, and I will throw one more name in there, Shaq. And the reason why I put him in there is he may not be the prototype center, as in he has all the skills necessary. However, his presence on the court, we rarely ever saw a guy like him in a 3-year stretch dominate that way. Now, of course, we've seen Will dominate, period. But
yes,
not the way Shaq did from 2000 to 2002.
Right.
And it was to the point where teams got smaller almost on purpose because they wanted to get faster and they wanted to get more athletic.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the changing game with Jordan. because of him, players like him and a slight forerunner to him, even though he's a small forward, James Worthy. We're seeing nothing. We have seen, and you can stop me when I say this, we have seen athletic wings because of more Jordan than Worthy, but definitely Worthy too, because of those two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was sped up by the fact that, well, we can't go through this big fella. We barely can go around them, but this is the best way we can do it. And teams got smaller, teams got more athletic, and then all of a sudden you started to have these stretch fours or stretch fives who wanted to bring Shaq out of the post.
Yep.
To defend, to open up the lane for the athletic guys to drive down it. So LeBron was supposed to be the guy to push that forward, because when teams are starting to do that, LeBron gets drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he wowed me, and I know he wowed you with some of the things he did.
Yeah,
on the court.
He did.
But probably ever since his second year in the league, I really have seen very little improvement from him since. And people could say, well, he didn't shoot as much from outside the second year versus the 15th, the 16th, 17th year. Okay, fine. Yeah. But when he does shoot outside, it's streaky.
Yeah, it is.
He'll have a game where he can go 7 or 9 from 3, and then the next 3 or 4 games go 2 for 9. And that's not an exaggeration. That's just fact. Just look at the tape.
Seen it happen live.
And then, and as for to me, this is my biggest point with him. As for the need to develop a post game, he's in the twilight of his career. He's not in his prime anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to find ways to get easy buckets. And it is easy. I mean, it'd be easy for him even if he had a Shaq in the middle. We don't even have that anymore because the stretch fours and fives want to be point guards.
Mm-hmm.
So the lane should be all his. I mean, he's Karl Malone's. He's Karl Malone's size, but he plays much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And even Magic, when he came back into the league with his 6'9", 215, 20-pound frame, he said he was going to be a power forward and played the power forward position.
Which means he camped out in the post 80% of the time.
Right. And what does that also mean? Well, that means that he has to find ways to contribute to the team and make it easier for the team to win. And in that case for him, he couldn't be that wonderful Showtime point guard. He had to revert to being a post-up player. Well, that's the same thing I'm seeing with LeBron. Now, yeah, you could say, well, he's a point guard now and he has great court vision. And I've said he has court vision like Magic Johnson. And he does.
Yeah.
Not as good as him, but his court vision is close to that. Unfortunately, he has a penchant for turning over the ball. So, I mean, you can't say this guy is the greatest thing you've ever seen. On one hand, and on the other hand, you forget. Okay, there's been times that he, in big moments, dropped the ball, and I mean literally dropped the ball. And I'm not talking about 2007. I'm barely talking about 2011. I'm talking about 2015.
Yep.
2017. 2018.
Absolutely.
You know, so I mean, there's those moments where we've seen him not come up to the occasion, and then you have, to me, what is called amnesia with these transsexuals.
How many times?
7-7.
How many times have we talked about that? The amnesia with these bronzexuals, and I'm gonna give you a lob. I'm gonna give you a lob from Drexler to Olajuwon. When I saw a post, and you touched on it, but I'm gonna give you the floor when I say, and a bronzexual said to me, in Jordan's NBA, Bron would average a triple-double, 35, 10, and 10. And I'm going to back away.
I almost cursed right there. Okay.
Hey, true story, folks. This was a post I saw on Facebook. I kid you not. I read those words, and I know you laughed. I laughed.
I know you did. I know you read them. I know you read them. That's what I'm talking about. This collective Brown section seem to have about LeBron James. It's like they have. It's almost like when they're training. You know, when horse trainers train thoroughbreds. You know, they put these blockers in between. No, well, not in between. They put the blockers to the left and to the right of the horse's vision, and all they can see is in front of them.
Yep.
That seemingly is how bronzexuals are. They don't seem to want to look to the right or left at competition that may be on par with them. Mm-hmm. They don't want to look behind, which means that they're studying what is behind them, and they don't want to look up because they don't want to study from the greats either. And it's just, man, it's amazingly almost mind-numbing at times in having conversations with them. And I'm like, they just tout 27-7-7. And it's great. Number career points scored. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. He may be 40,000, 10,000, 10,000. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not debating all of those being wonderful. I'm not debating any of those platitudes whatsoever. I don't care what player it is.
No.
But you can, to me, I put it like this. LeBron James is the NBA version of Brett Favre. What do I mean by that? You have a guy who stacked up wonderful stats. The guy threw for over 500 touchdowns. The guy threw for over 70,000 yards. That's on the plus side. Mm-hmm. On the minus side, he still now is the record holder for throwing most interceptions in the career in the history of the NFL. Mm-hmm. To this day. LeBron, well, he's on track to, if I'm lying, I'm dying. He's on track to become the single most prolific scorer in NBA history.
Yeah.
He's at 34,000 now?
Yeah.
The record is 38. So if he has 2, maybe even 3 decent scoring years, he will break that easily. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the Cap. Love you, Kareem.
Captain Skyhook.
And okay, and I'll throw in he'll probably get 10,000 assists or tails and rebounds along with it. Mm-hmm. That's the plus side. The minus side, he is currently right now 124 turnovers away from taking over as the most prolific turnover-prone player in NBA history. The league goes 73 years. Mm-hmm. And that's why I make the equation.
Yep.
That's why I make the correlation between Brett Favre and LeBron James. You got a guy who has prodigious talent, but is reckless with the ball, and has proven that over his career.
And oh, by the way, I add this about Brett Favre: only 2 Super Bowl appearances. One won, lost the other to the legendary John Elway.
Wow, what a performance! That's the thing that these bronzexuals lack. Just this perspective, the right perspective, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That they will go to war with you saying, well, I mean, this guy is a wonderful playoffs performer. You know, when he gets to the playoffs, he never loses the first round. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
I never knew that you got a trophy for being undefeated in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I never knew that. I thought the goal was to
win the thing.
I thought the goal was to win more than you lost every single series in the playoffs to get you the Larry O'Brien Trophy hoisted over your head. I thought that's what the goal was. Not to only say that I was better than another team once, and then you go on to the next series and you get blown out. I mean, heck, okay, well, fine. I guess we should have thrown a parade for Michael Jordan in May of 1988, because that would have meant that he finally broke through, won a series against the Cavaliers, took a full tilt of 5 games, and Jordan went absolutely ballistic point scoring wise, and say, well, hey, look at that. Jordan, he's the king of the first round, because the next round, the Pistons put them out the playoffs.
Yep.
So,
which leads to this
you see how
point.
ridiculous that sounds?
which leads to another point that I've always made. There's a certain word that I've always used with LeBron that he has lacked, and that word is progression.
Wonder. The guy thinks that his body, and yeah, he does great work with his body, but the guy thinks that by his body alone, that he could just simply, when you roll the ball out on the court, he picks it up, and he is the most dominant force on the court of the 10 who are on it. And you can only do that for a certain amount of time. Now, LeBron, he's somewhat of a student of the game, but there's other parts of the game he doesn't study. He should study Shaquille O'Neal from that aspect. I mean, this guy, like I said, most dominant figure in the 3-year window I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But starting in 2003, we didn't see it whole hardcore with the cracks then, or in 2004. But we started to see it in 2005 and then 2006, to the point where he won his 4th championship. He wasn't the player that brought them the chip. He was a role player by then. Now, I just said he was the most dominating force in 2002, but he was a role player 4 years later. LeBron needed to study that and say, okay, well, doggone it. Well, so with my sheer body, I can't be that big time force. I'm going to have to learn some skills to extend my career. I love the big fella, but that's what Shaq did not do.
Yeah.
And LeBron is on that track to do the same thing. And as far as your friend saying that LeBron changed the game, I will give him credit. Yes, LeBron changed the game off the court.
Yes.
And I don't mean his charitable actions. I mean, he was the guy who made it okay for free agents to pal up with one another and say, okay, let's pool our resources, let's band together, let's win a chip together. That type of thing did not go on before July 2010, June and July 2010. But it went on then. So in terms of changing the way the game was played, there you go. And how would you say he changed that game? Well, hey, you had a guy in Kevin Durant who he criticized LeBron in 2010 in doing that move, only 6 years later to realize, well, man, I really need a ring. And I'm not going to get it in Oklahoma City. Let's go out to the Bay Area. If he didn't see that type of move that LeBron made, that 6 summers ago, Durant would not have made that same move in 2016.
True.
That is how LeBron James has changed the game, but it was off the court. On the court, LeBron has not changed the game because LeBron is a descendant of James Worthy. He is a direct descendant of him. A guy who has extreme high motor, a guy who can run up and down the floor, the guy who's like a gazelle.
Yeah.
And the guy who, if given the chance to make an impact and he's flowing, will do that. And yeah. So, and that's not an insult to LeBron. That's just what he is and who he is.
It's just fact. It's just absolute fact. And
now,
these bronsexuals don't like facts. We've established that. These bronsexuals do not like facts. Period. They just don't.
For another example, when people say the greatest small forward of all time is easily LeBron James, I'm like, I can think of a guy from French Lick, Indiana,
Larry Bird,
who would have a real good conversation with you.
I can think of three small forwards who are all Hall of Famers that will put their game against LeBron's and will smash him. James Worthy, Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen.
And I'll focus on Bird. So with him, he wasn't nearly as athletic as LeBron.
Mm-mm.
And he would be the first to admit that.
Yeah.
But what he lacked in athleticism, he made up for in grit, in effort, and in being a skilled basketball player.
Awesome.
And if it weren't for the fact that he had back issues, that dude would have had a 20-year career because that jump shot was wet.
Easy.
That jump shot was wet, and his court vision not talked about as much.
No.
His court vision was awesome too. He could have easily had a 20-year career because that. And LeBron can't say that for that reason. He will have a 20-year career, yes, but he can't say that he had one because he was a great or dynamic scorer, or he had great court vision to where he took care of the ball, or he was a wonderful rebounder.
Mm-hmm.
He has the stats, but he doesn't have that skill set where you say, okay, well, he is great in this one area and he's good in the others. He's decent at scoring. He's decent as an assist guy. He's decent with rebounding. He's decent with defense, and he's getting worse.
Yeah. He's getting a lot worse.
You can't tell me one area in basketball that LeBron James is great at. You can't tell me. You can't even say he's great at penetration, because I can name many players today who can probably penetrate and drive down the hole better than he can now. So
I can name quite a few.
I make that.
And two of them are in San Francisco.
Right. So I will make that challenge. What does LeBron James do? One skill he does better than anybody, either in today's game or in the history of the league? And the answer is nothing.
Nothing.
But that is not a slight to him. That's just the facts.
It is.
And as far as changing the game on the court, and you get a Pasha that Stephen Curry, along with Klay Thompson, gets that, or how dare you say that about him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But what
as
about...
I said on your show, and as I said on my favorite team is the Houston Rockets. I root for them.
Yep.
Been doing so 40 years strong.
Yep.
Not changing. But I'm also not going to have rose-colored glasses when I look at them. This is a team that when they saw Curry and Thompson hit their threes at alarming rates and get the results that they got with their offense, which was to bring bigs out from the post to open up the lane so that they could take care of, this is something that people don't talk about with them, so they could take advantage of their passing skills.
Yep.
Because they cut and cut and cut to the hole. The other three players, the front court should just simply make backdoor cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl Morey, general manager of the Rockets, said, yeah, let's copy that. Of course, he copied the 2014 version of the Warriors.
And not the current version.
Not the current version, and not the, oh, yeah, you said the word earlier, progressed version of them. To where they took that model and they improved on it.
Yep.
To where it was to a point where you can't say that Stephon Curry and Klay Thompson are just three-point shooting artists.
Which is the argument they'll make for which is the argument that most folks that don't like the Splash Brothers will make for Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. Oh, they just shoot. No, my friend.
No.
They do a lot more. They do a lot more than shoot.
No. Curry's a really good help defender. Thompson is one of the best one-on-one defenders we got in the league.
Yes.
So for anyone to say that all they know how to do is shoot from 25 feet and beyond, miss me with that. Look at the game, study it. And the reason why I know the Warriors so well is I got a chance to see them up close and personal, one May after another with the Rockets, and see that team clad in gold and blue knock out my team clad in white and red 4 times in 5 years. So I know what I'm seeing with this team. With and without Durant.
Yep.
They have put the Rockets out the playoffs with and without Durant.
Mm-hmm.
So this team has changed the way the game is played. Because look how the game is played now.
Yes.
Do you see a post-up player?
Nope.
No. Do you see teams more than the Rockets now try to shoot 25, 30, 35 footers?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Did you see that 10 years ago? No. Why? You didn't see that then because you didn't have a shooter the likes of a Klay Thompson even, let alone Stephon Curry. You didn't see shooters like that. So your point's valid. They changed the way the game is played because the game is wide open because the team like the Warriors make you defend 45 feet of court.
Yep.
Versus 15 to 20.
Oh, and Steph has a great
I'm like, you don't even study the game.
and Stephen has a great mid-range game, folks. Okay, don't get it twisted.
He has an underrated mid-range game.
Yep. Don't get it twisted. He has a great mid-range game.
The one thing I don't like about him is he has the ability to stop. He can penetrate and stop on a dime and either do a floater or do just a straight jump shot.
Yep.
And to me, that is what's missing in the game. Mid-range jump shot.
Mid-range.
And to me, I think people can cook. Oh, let's go right back to LeBron. See, you all think that we're doing this to poke fun at the guy. No, we're seeing holes in his game to what he can do to improve upon it. And 17 years in, he hasn't.
He really hasn't. He really has. He really, really hasn't.
So, no, LeBron hasn't changed the way the game's played on the court.
No.
But yes, the Splash Brothers have. And to bolster your point, that has, I think, Colin Cowherd actually, Fox Zone, Colin Cowherd, actually said the same. And fully agrees with you. And fully agrees with you as to who and why.
Yep.
And I fully agree with him and you as to who and why.
Mm-hmm. And people are arguing with us about our basketball facts. Yeah, I kind of grew up watching basketball with my parents.
Yeah.
Especially my dad, because people seem to forget the era where the NBA was on CBS for many years.
Ooh,
before that, ABC had it until 1973. No, check that. 1974. 1974.
Okay, what sport?
1974, the NBA contract moved from ABC to CBS. And CBS had it until 1990. And then, of course, one of the greatest eras, 1990 to 2002, the NBA was on NBC. And I really hate the fact that it's not on NBC anymore. All right, let's just be real. Speaking of the NBA, let's shift gears. There has been talk. Let me try that sentence again. There has been talk that the NBA will vote for its champion. And I would rather see them play it out. I'd rather see them play it out. Let's just be real. I'd rather see them play it out and decide it on the court.
Of course.
You've seen the same articles I have. You know where I'm going.
Yes, I do.
You know where I'm going. There have been articles put out there now, folks, that it could come down if the NBA season is canceled, and I'm praying it's not because I want to see Giannis get a ring. Okay, I want to see Giannis.
I do too.
I want to see Giannis get a ring. Number one, and number two, I want to see one of my two rumors of a big man coming to Golden State become reality, and I really think it will. More on that in a moment. But if the NBA season is canceled, it could come down to a vote of who the champion is, kind of like college football back in the 80s. And you know exactly where I am going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I'm just going to turn and hand you the ball, and you take it from there.
So when I saw that article, because I saw the same one, I said, man, these cats want to grease the wheel so hard. To give this guy a mythical world championship.
And
this guy meaning LeBron.
And it would indeed be mythical because it wasn't decided on the court.
I'm like, they want to give this guy a mythical world championship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, come on. Voting on who is the best team. This league has been in existence since 1947.
Yep.
I'm sorry. 1947. When has it ever been about the prospect of, well, a governing body thinks this team is the best? The whole premise of the NBA has been we settle all of team things on the court. Because I'll go back to 1995. And the reason why I go back to 1995 is that was, well, great year for me, great year for your boy.
Yep.
The Rockets, who were only 47-35, they were records-wise leagues below all four teams they faced off in the playoffs.
Yep.
Which were in succession: the Jazz, the Suns, the Spurs, and the Magic. You know what those four teams had in common? Each team won at least 59 games that year.
And each team had home court advantage in the postseason.
And each court against the Rockets had home court advantage against them. You know what also those four teams had in common? They all lost to the Rockets in that same year where they won at least 59 games.
Yep.
So you can't tell me that you can vote for a champion. There's a reason why college football decided to go away from that. And it is because they knew voting for a national champion was weak and bogus.
Mm-hmm.
And so they try to sell it on the field as best they can.
Yeah. So
we
how
can
about
debate
that?
on how good or bad the system is, but they've done away with voting them, voting a champion.
So how about this?
On, man.
Couple more points. How about this? There's a chance that the NBA season will resume, and I'm praying it does. But given the coronavirus pandemic, and the curve is starting to flatten a little bit, that everything will be played in Las Vegas. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, as a fan, that'd be great. It'd be wonderful to actually look at something, and I can't really hate on it as a fan. Being pragmatic, however, I don't want those players to be at risk.
Right.
I mean, the reason why sports shut down was because an NBA player was tested positive for the novel coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
So they shouldn't restart, and then all of a sudden they have a case again.
Yeah. Because
the possibility at the moment, if they were to today do that, the possibility of that happening is high.
Very high. Very high.
You know, so no, I don't want them to do that just for the reason of I don't want to look at these players as commodities only.
Right.
And these players aren't commodities only. They're not just products. They're human beings too.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it too because I do want to see Giannis hoist up the Larry Bird Trophy because I love brothers like him.
Yes.
The guys like him are what made me a fan of the NBA in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who openly says, you know what? If you're wearing my uniform, you're good. But if you're not wearing my uniform, I want to bust you. And I don't want to go on another team to bust you.
Right.
That makes me root for a guy like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want Giannis to get his chip. But if they can't do it, no. Shut the whole season down.
Bring it back
please.
When everything is safe.
Yes.
I've said it many times on this show.
100%.
Bring it back when everything is safe and the pandemic has passed. All right? Because you don't want to put the fans at risk. You don't want to put the players at risk, especially. You don't want to put the media at risk. Those are the three main things that make up sports: the fans, the players, and the media. Don't bring anything back. Please don't bring anything back until it is absolutely safe. That's why the WNBA draft has gone virtual. The NFL draft has gone virtual. I would not be surprised if the NBA draft and the Major League Baseball draft will go virtual. If it has to go virtual for a while, so be it.
I would not be surprised I wouldn't be surprised if society does reopen per se right around the time the NBA and the Major League Baseball draft happens, which in both cases that'd be June.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they still went virtual even after that. I would not be surprised at all.
That's how I'm attacking my sales. That's how I'm attacking my sales, and I'm ready to go. Okay. And we'll close with this point. Okay. And it's a couple of big announcements, and I've hinted at this with you. There's another show via Snowman's Digital Media that's going to debut a little later on today, and the man that you're hearing on the line with me is in essence going to be my partner. It's called Beyond the Arc, and we are just going to talk hoops in all levels and all areas. Got a friend, Henry G., who is equipping me with a lot of women's basketball interviews. So I'm going to hit those and bring it into the show. But, yeah, I'd love for you to be my partner on Beyond the Arc.
Wow. Well, hey, all I got to say to that is thank you. I gladly accept. And for those who think that we were hard to deal with before,
you ain't seen nothing yet.
No, we just scratched the surface, my friend. So, yeah, I mean, let's bring it on. That's all I got to say. Yeah. I'm happy to be a part and happy to be a partner with you. Beyond the Arc will be on the RTF Sports Network and also via snowmandigitalmedia.com. There'll be a podcast version of it, and it'll be an hour-long show, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. The podcast will roll each and every day. So, yeah, us brothers are going to be busy. And to the bronzesexuals, let me change that. And I'm going to end this on a note that you've often given me. To the folks who believe and continue to believe that we can't come together and do anything when it comes to sports talk, I believe Cole Johnson has said this to me a few times, and I hope to get it right. We were through with it before you knew what to do with it. The mic has been dropped. My partner in crime, I love you very much, and I can't wait for Beyond the Arc, man. We're going to be busy. We are going to be busy. Oh, I can't wait for it too. Thank you for the invite for this, and thank you for the future invite for our new show. Thank you so much, my friend. Love you. I love you too, brother.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
I've had a lot of fun on this show in the 7 years it's been active, and I've had some great guests on here. But there's a bigger plan for this show. When I reached out to this gentleman and I said I'd love for you to come on my show at the recommendation of one of my brothers in broadcasting, he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And all I will say is former Texas A&M Aggie. He played in the Southwest Conference. You old schoolers remember that. Let's see. He played for the Miami Dolphins. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler. And he played with a fellow named Dan Marino, who's one of my favorite quarterbacks who's in the Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Richmond Webb, one of the stalwarts of that offensive line. And he joins me right now. How are you, my friend? Good to have you.
Hey, man, Brian, I'm glad to be on your show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Did you have fun playing with Dan Marino?
Man, I had a blast. Anytime you play with a guy with that type of talent and you get to actually experience it firsthand, some of the throws and stuff that he makes, and then you go back and watch it on film, you definitely, you might not appreciate it when it happens, but after you have time, you get older and you get a chance to reflect back, man, that was some of the best times I had in my life. So I definitely cherish those times when I played with him.
You were drafted in 1990 out of Texas A&M. And as I mentioned at the top of this interview, at that time, Texas A&M was not in the SEC nor the Big 12. They were in a little conference that I enjoyed watching called the Southwest Conference. How much fun was that playing in the Southwest Conference with just Texas and Texas schools there?
Yeah, and you can sum it up better. When I first went to Texas A&M, the only school that wasn't in the Southwest Conference was that wasn't in the state of Texas was the University of Arkansas, and I think they were one of the first teams to move to the SEC from the Southwest Conference. But it was good, but it was you knew a lot of the same guys because you had like 7 Division I schools in the state of Texas. So
right,
you had some friends go here, some friends go there, but it was just a big interstate rivalry. But man, we had some good times back then. So I could definitely remember. I know a lot of people can't because that was quite some years ago. But
yeah.
We had fun playing in the Southwest Conference. Yeah,
I mean, and you have to think about it. Anyone who remembers the Southwest Conference, you had schools like Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. Good grief. Rice was there. You mentioned Arkansas. See, I got hooked on the Southwest Conference when ESPN used to play those games late at night when when they thought no one would appreciate the Southwest Conference. I tell you what, this old schooler does. I miss those times.
Oh, no question. And I grew up in the Dallas area, and back when I was in high school, that's when they had Eric Dickerson.
Yep.
Lance McElhaney was the quarterback, and Craig James. So it was the Pony Express, and a lot of people didn't know about it, but they had some really great teams back then. So it was really competitive, and I think my true freshman year, I really didn't play much, but we played the University of Auburn in the Cotton Bowl my true freshman year, and they had a guy that some people might remember named Bo Jackson. And we actually beat Auburn, but he broke a screen against us, and we had guys in the secondary that ran like a 4.3 40, and they had an angle on him. And I said, oh, my goodness. I said, now I know why this guy won the Heisman Trophy. And I was like, he was something. We beat him, but I could tell he was a special type player.
Yeah.
And even played him when he even went to the Raiders. I was at Miami at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But, if his career just wasn't cut short, that's one guy that I said should be possibly considered for the Hall of Fame because you look at, his yards per carry per average, and it was definitely an injury that shortened his career span. But, a guy that can play football and baseball and, the stuff he did running up the wall and he was just a freak athlete, man. It's just, those guys don't come along that often.
Mm-mm.
And, to be able to experience that, I was like, man, yeah, he was truly special.
He was, and I loved watching him. And there was one Auburn, Alabama game that I watched. It was on ABC, and it was at it was in Birmingham. They played it at Legion Field, and Keith Jackson was on the call, and Bo Jackson, he gets the handoff and wasn't touched for like a 78-yard touchdown. And all I can remember Keith Jackson saying was, "Goodbye, in your face." I watched a replay of that, and I was cracking up laughing.
But you know what? Keith Jackson was the type of guy that if he did a game and you made a big play, you were almost considered for the All-American team just by the way he would announce.
Yes.
And wasn't that it was just the way he said it, or what? It wasn't real deep terminology, but he just had that nectar, that gift to just. I mean, he just had it, but man, I used to love listening to him back in the day, man. He's a great announcer.
Man, I miss Keith Jackson. I miss the way he would call college football games, and it would be something, and like you said, you'd be considered for All-American if you had a play and he called it. Well, Bo Jackson had a few of them, to say the least. And he even made it up to Chicago a couple times to see my Northwestern Wildcats in 1995. And you knew it was something if you were at a school that didn't get an ABC game for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden you have a breakout year and Keith Jackson of the A1 team for ABC shows up. And everybody in Evanston and in Chicago is going, man, this is a big deal now.
It's a big deal, and if Keith Jackson does, it validates you. You legitimate. It's just like if he was doing your game, like you said, that was their number one lineup, and if he did it, it was something serious. That's the one. Say, hey, let's not mess this up. He don't come here often. Let's show that we really belong here. And you're right about that. He was that type of guy.
Yeah, he was that type of guy. And speaking of that type of guy, you get drafted by the Dolphins, and that type of guy was Dan Marino. The first time you played with Dan and you were in the huddle with him for a regular season game, what was that like?
Well, I think we can even go back before that. The first time I actually walked in the huddle, me and Keith Sims were rookies, and we came in together. And then not only was Dan in the huddle, but you had the Marks brothers, Mark Duper, Mark Clayton.
Mark Clayton, yep.
These were guys that I watched when I was in college, Monday Night Football, and, they would light it up during the exciting plays, this and that. So then you're like, man, I'm really here. And I can remember it was one of the first few practices. Marino comes up to me and Keith Sims. He said, what's the most important thing you got to remember? And so we kind of look at each other. We said, we got to remember the playbook. And he was like, no. And, we started going through stuff. We got to remember assignments, how to block. He's like, no, that's it. He said, the most important thing you got to remember is to protect me. He said, remember that, everything. And we kind of laughed. But, it was a true statement because, the thing that was probably my motivation when I got there was Marino was already Hall of Fame status. He was about 8 years ahead of us or whatever. So he was already known. And in the back of my mind, I was just saying, okay, I don't ever want to be the guy that's remembered that gets this type of guy hurt. Because if you do that, they're never going to forget you. Oh yeah, I remember that guy we drafted out of Texas A&M, and so that was motivation enough for me because I understood it was Coach Don Shula, he was already a legend.
Yep.
And it was Marino. So I didn't have to worry about Coach. He was on the sideline. We just had to make sure that we wasn't responsible for getting him hurt.
Right.
And that was my motivation. But, those guys, the Marx brothers, Marino, came in. We learned a lot from those guys, how to conduct yourself as a professional, not only the physical practices and stuff like that, but learning the mental aspect of the game, how to study film, this and that, what it required to be a professional and to perform at a high level. And I just, even through college, you never wanted to be the weak link. So you say, okay, I got to raise my level of play to try to get up here with these guys. So I never wanted to be the guy that was considered the weak link, or, yeah, he's on the team, but we just got to always kind of cover up for him, this and that. I wanted to, carry my own, hold my own, and say, okay, the better we are, the better we going to have better results. So that's the kind of the way I approached it back then.
One of the best rivalries that I've watched through the 90s, whenever you guys played Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills, because it was a high-scoring game and it would be madness all over the place. The first time you had a chance to face him in the postseason, oddly enough, was 1990. It was January 1991 at Rich Stadium, and the snow kept coming down. You heard your feet squeaking on the field. NBC had that call. In that playoff atmosphere, matching up against another Hall of Famer and Jim Kelly, what was that like? What was going through your head when y'all got to Buffalo and you're going, we have to play these guys?
We had to play them, and it wasn't like we were surprised because we had played them twice. I think we beat them early in the season down in Miami, and then we came up later in the year. They beat us, and so it was another rematch. So you wasn't going to get surprised by Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed. Then you had Bruce Smith. You had Cornelius Bennett. They were loaded, and we just didn't have enough. They always had a little bit more, and the better chance we would have had is if we could have played that game at home. And I think we went 12-4. They went 13-3. So
right,
and they had that K gun, and I tell people, and that was one of our arch rivalries. That you look back in the early '90s to go to the Super Bowl 4 times consecutively, year after year, and I always tell people this because I watch those games. I really felt that they should have beat the Giants that first Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But the kick was wide right. And I said, if they win that game, maybe it changes the dynamics of everything else. But they were really good teams. And sometimes I think it goes unappreciated because if you don't win the Super Bowl, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, y'all win, but y'all lost 4 times. Kind of like I think the Vikings did it in the 70s. They had some really great teams.
Yeah.
But tremendous respect. Didn't like them at all because, they won our arch rivalries and they kept us from going. But you had to respect them because when it came time to play, they found a way to do it. They found a way to win. And they just had a roster of, Hall of Famers on that team. So tremendous respect, but I just didn't like them, and I still don't like them. I can deal with them in the off season, but once the season starts, I'm riding with my fans. That's it. So yeah.
Oh man, Richmond Webb joining me here. Man, I gotta know this from the inside. How tough was it in those times to go up against guys like Cornelius Bennett and Bruce Smith?
Oh, it was like, Bruce was already Bruce when I got there. So I knew about him. I was just another rookie, I'm just trying to say, we just got to try to keep Marino clean. But,
yeah,
he was that guy, and just watching him on film, you knew you had to play 60 minutes and it was going to be hell. And he was going to the whistle, if not past the whistle.
Yep.
And you had to really get mentally ready for that. You knew you were going to be sore. It's going to be didn't matter whether it was a run play, pass play, whatever. He was a guy that wasn't going to take plays off, and he was going to keep coming. So you might as well get your mind right. So definitely the toughest guy that I had to block twice, sometimes 3 times a year. So I tell people that all the time. Yeah, he was the best guy that I had to go against.
And early on, it was 3 times a year because you'd see him twice in the regular season, and then you'd see him in the playoffs. And sometimes, you don't want to appear mentally fatigued because that's when your opponent will get you. But sometimes when you see Buffalo 3 times, you're just sitting there going, here we go again against these guys.
Here we go again. And you knew, you know what I'm saying? You knew what they brought to the table. So you knew you had to play almost mistake-free football because they had to, just like we could score, we knew they had that same dynamic in their offense. So it wasn't like, okay, if we get down, this and that, we'll get the ball back. No, it was almost like we got to score touchdowns. We can't settle for field goals because we knew how good those guys were. And a lot of times that would be the difference if they could get you to settle for a field goal or punt the ball or whatever. They go down, score another touchdown, a guy miss a tackle or something, and they got you right where they wanted, and it was, hit Andre Reed on a little crossing pattern that should go for like 10 or 12 yards. Next thing you know, he's going for about 60 yards. He started on the right, and he's all the way over the left, and he's keep going. Or you miss Thurman on a little screen that should be, 3rd and 5, it should be over, and he scampers for 20 yards and keeps the defense out there. It was just frustrating like that, but they were really good. And I give them their credit, even though I don't like them. I like the guys now that we're retired.
Yeah.
But back then it was like, yeah, we cool off the field, but when it come time to play, I ain't got no love for you because I know you ain't got none for me.
When you watch guys like Kelly and Thomas and Andre Reed, what was it like watching Thurman Thomas play in that K-gun offense?
It wasn't fun because you see the plays that he was making to keep the chains moving. And, when I was a rookie, I went back and I was like, okay, I understand rivalries, this and that, blah, 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 but nobody in the AFC East never really liked each other. So I said, okay, what's the deal with Buffalo and Miami? What's the deal? So I go back and I'm looking through the history archives or whether I found it. And I think in the 70s, might be wrong, but I'm pretty close, the Dolphins beat the Bills like 20 times in a row. So I said, okay, I got it. If somebody beats your head in like that, every chance you get, you want to step on them and finish it. So I said, okay, this is why this rivalry is the way it is. I get it now. So it ain't going to get better. It's only going to get worse. But hey, you got to deal with the hand you dealt and get ready for it. So they definitely took pleasure in beating the Dolphins and this and that. But, it's probably, I think, Bruce, Thurman, Andre, Kelly, and probably Cornelius. He'll probably go into the Hall of Fame. I'm surprised he hadn't made it in there yet.
Yeah.
But you got that type of caliber, not just Pro Bowl guys, but those type of caliber guys, and you okay, now it makes sense why they won all those games the way they did.
Richmond Webb joining me here on the program. Another quarterback that I speak about a lot because I had a chance to see his entire career was Steve Young. And in '92, you guys had a chance to play him at Candlestick Park. Up close and personal, how good was he?
The thing I watched that NFL Films thing, Steve Young is a little older than me. So I already knew about him. He kind of took over, which he had to fill some shoes taking over for Joe Montana. But,
yes.
He was a different dynamic. He had a nice arm, but he could scramble and get outside the pocket and get the first down with his legs. He had that type of escapability or whatever. Very good. They still had Jerry Rice, Taylor, Craig, it had those type of guys. So I knew about the 49ers in the late 80s. You know, I was at A&M, so I know about them. You know, Charles Haley, those type of guys. It was just thank goodness they were in the NFC because we had enough dealing with Buffalo and the AFC. So yeah. We didn't need no more help, but yeah, they were really good, and he was a really good quarterback. I'll give him that.
I love it. I love it. You said thank God they were in the NFC because we had enough to deal with Buffalo. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Oh man, delightful conversation. Richmond Webb joining me. One final question: do any young linemen come up to you and ask for advice on how to play the game or how to conduct themselves within the game?
I've met a few, but not so much come up to me. A lot of times, you know, you might strike up a conversation, have some guys just maybe coming out and I can tell them some of the things they need to do or some of the things that can possibly get you on the squad, you know, this and that. Things to definitely not do to definitely make them want to just send you on your way. But every now and then I run into some young guys. I know a couple at A&M, and then I met a couple from other schools, this and that. So if they reach out, I'm more than happy to, you know, share any experience or give them any advice possible. You know, that was the way I reached out to other guys, you know, some of the guys that played for the Dolphins. Anytime you can pick somebody's brain that's been there before you, it definitely helps. So I'm always open for that, and you're never too old to learn, and it always kept me humble. So every now and then I'll get a young guy, but I don't have anybody right now that, you know, I'm giving advice to.
How are you handling this pandemic? How are you handling this pandemic the way it is?
I'm staying at home. I think it's just trying to do what they ask people to do. I think the thing is just I'll be glad when the curve kind of flattens and we can kind of get back to some normalcy. But it just, man, it gives you a different appreciation for things. I think now it's forcing people to spend times with their families, and that's not always a bad thing. I think sometimes we get so busy, whether, you know, we're working, we're trying to do this, do that. And sometimes we just got to sit down and take a breath and just really appreciate what we have. It's more to life than just, you know, trying to make money or pay your bills, this and that. You know, sometimes it's just spending time together. And I think a lot of people, I think as Americans, sometimes we get away from that. And I understand because people do got to work this and that. But I just try to look at it and say, well, maybe this is something that give us some time to reflect and really appreciate some of the little things that we've overlooked. And I think people have got the message. So I'm hoping this thing kind of levels off where we can kind of get back and people can start working and stuff, because I know it's tough on a lot of people that they don't have income coming in and stuff like that, and even small businesses and stuff. So that is my prayer. We kind of get this thing under wraps and kind of return to some normalcy.
Richmond Webb, 7-time Pro Bowler with the Miami Dolphins. And yes, he did protect that man named Dan Marino, and a lot of great stories here. Man, thanks for coming on. I'd look forward to having you on again.
Hey, Brian, I appreciate it. Had fun, and I'll look forward to it. You have a blessed day.
More stuff for you after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
With the NFL draft a little less than a week away, matter of fact, it is a week away, let's take a deep dive into one of the teams that is going to need some help, and that's being the least about it. To join me to talk about it, one of my good friends, CJ DeSimone, to talk about the New York Jets. CJ, how are you?
What's going on, Snowman? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine, my friend.
Beautiful.
All right, let's dive in, and I'll use a very familiar voice to you. Where do the Jets, I have to do it, where do the Jets start to revolve and repair this debacle that's been going on for 50 years since they won a Super Bowl? Why can't we get back? Where do they have to start, man?
Oh, man. Well, I know how you love setting me up with loaded questions. So, you know, there's about 50 different ways that I could go with that question. But you know what? I'll keep it clean because I know it's a family show. You know, we'll save the cussing and all that stuff for my podcast. But
exactly.
Basically, what the Jets need to do is, in all seriousness, they need to draft themselves a player which they know or they feel in their heart of hearts can be a day one starter who can come in and contribute and really be a building block for the future. Now, that being said, you know, we all go in, all of us as fans, we go in with the thought of who the Jets should select. A lot of attention has been paid to the first round. You know, there's a lot of people who want the Jets to select Jerry Jeudy. There's some that want CeeDee Lamb. There's some that want Henry Ruggs. There's some that want Tristan Wirfs or any one of the top four offensive tackles that are on the board, whether it be a Mekhi Becton. You know, there's a number of different directions where Jet fans kind of have their sights set on. You have a faction that wants a particular player, a faction that wants player B, a faction that wants player C, and no one's ever really going to agree. So it's kind of funny. A good buddy of mine put on, his name is Tyson Roush. He is the co-host of the Let's Talk Jets podcast on blogtalkradio.com. And he put out a tweet today, and I absolutely laughed. I had to contain my laughter because here I am. I'm sitting at the pickup/checkout window for the pharmacy that I'm currently working at. And I had to contain my laughter so much that I actually had to bite my bottom lip because what he tweeted was so perfect. And I don't want to quote it verbatim because I don't remember it verbatim, but essentially he said the Jets could trade up, the Jets could trade back, the Jets could select a player, the Jets could not select a player. Guaranteed, no matter what happens, 50% of Jets Nation will be outraged by the pick, whatever they do. And I responded to him. I responded to him. Well said. And I got like 5 retweets, which I thought was friggin' hilarious because here I am. I can't really say what I really would like to say. Had I been on my lunch break, then that would have been oh my goodness, there would have been fireworks. But you know, unfortunately, I couldn't say what I really wanted to say. But I just thought that tweet was so appropriate because it really tells the tale of what being a Jets fan, the Jets fandom, and the complete divide that is this fan base in regards to players that they select in the draft. And this is because we asked Mike McCagnon to fix this team through the draft. He didn't do it. We asked Mike Tannenbaum to fix his team through the draft. He didn't do it. Okay. We asked John Idzik to fix this team through the draft.
We know the answer to that question.
Draft, he had 12 picks, Brian. 12 picks. Okay, and the only one that's still on the roster and hanging on by a thread is Quincy Enunwa.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So the Jets have had a traditional history of bad drafting. And that is the reason why they find themselves in the position that they're at. Because the next GM comes in, they may come in with $150, $200 million in cap space. They start spending like a drunken sailor. The Jets are competitive for 1 year, and then the next year they can't do squat.
Right.
Okay? Which we saw in the Mike McCagnon era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. John Idzik, unfortunately, we never even really got to see his era get off the ground because I don't think he had a season in which he was 500 or 500 or better.
He didn't.
So that was a complete disaster. And then before him, you had Mike Tannenbaum. Okay? And then before him, you had Terry Bradwell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when Herman Edwards was there. And both of those were, again, hit or miss. You know, so because of the history of just very poor drafting, this is the reason why this franchise is suffering the way it is. Now, that being said, turn the attention toward the number 11 pick. Okay, I've made it very clear on my podcast, Weapons Hot, that I want an offensive lineman with the number 11 pick. And the reason being is because if any one of those top four offensive linemen are on the board at 11, you take them. If they are not, then you take a Jerry Jeudy, then you take a CeeDee Lamb or a Henry Ruggs or whoever else that you have in that particular category. Okay?
Yeah. So,
because
here's my question. Here's my question.
Okay.
And I was thinking the same thing that you are, that the Jets need offensive linemen. Because if they don't get any offensive linemen, then Sam Darnold is a sitting duck again.
Exactly.
He's a sitting duck again. So they got to get some linemen.
Right. This is the reason why I argue with people about the number 11 pick. Oh, we need a dynamic playmaker. We need a dynamic playmaker. We need a dynamic playmaker. Okay, guess what? Sam Darnold needs time to throw the ball to this quote-unquote dynamic playmaker that you guys are clamoring for. Okay? So if we go into next season, even though Joe Douglas has, in my opinion, really spent a lot of resources, trying to rebuild this offensive line, he didn't go extravagant. He maybe not have gotten the guys at the top of his list, but he got us very solid, workable players. And I think personally on paper, compared to what the Jets offensive line was at the end of last season, to what they look like currently right now, they are significantly better in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if Sam Darnold does not have protection in the pocket to throw the ball, I don't care if you have a wide receiving core that's made up of Jarvis Landry, Julio Jones, Jerry Rice, and Randy Moss. He is not going to be able to get them that ball sitting on his ass.
And that's the point that people miss, who have these high profile quarterbacks, and we can both admit there are some teams that have them and some teams that don't. And one of the teams that has a high profile quarterback who's been protected is my beloved 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, which is one way I think they're going to lean in the second round, which is for an offensive lineman. But with the when it comes to the Jets, what do you do? Oh boy, I can't believe I'm going to throw this question out there, but I better throw it out there right now. With the fact that y'all need an offensive lineman or several offensive linemen very badly, where does Le'Veon Bell fit in this picture?
Le'Veon Bell fits in that picture exactly where he is, in the New York Jets backfield. Because if the New York Jets rebuild that offensive line, Le'Veon Bell is going to be a beneficiary of having a much better offensive line, which will be able to open up holes for him, which means he will be able to be a lot more dangerous than he was last year.
True.
Because there were times last year where we watched Le'Veon Bell play and had to single-handedly drag the New York Jets offense by himself, playing behind the 30. Wrap your head around this now, Brian. I know I'm going to throw some big numbers at you. The 32nd ranked offensive line in the NFL.
Yep.
How many teams are there in the NFL?
32.
32. Right? The Jets were ranked dead last. That's how bad our offensive line was. And I still point home because there are people out there that still just don't get how bad the Jets' offensive line was last year. Okay? Trevor Siemian almost got killed.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Falk almost got killed.
Yep.
Okay? And and look, I'm even going to throw out. I'm going to throw this out there too because there was something that I saw a couple weeks ago. And as a matter of fact, there's a fellow Jet fan that I go back and forth with. I'm not going to say his name on the air because I don't want to embarrass anybody. Mm-hmm. But look, for someone to say to me that they don't think that Sam Darnold is a franchise quarterback, look at his stats and that they think that he's no better than Mark Sanchez was. Okay, look. First off, time out. Okay, first off, okay. Mark Sanchez does not get mentioned in the same breath as Sam Darnold. No. That's number one. Okay, they may have gone to the same school, but Mark Sanchez played behind the number one ranked offensive line in the NFL.
Yes, he
where
did.
Sam Darnold is playing behind the 32nd ranked offensive line in the NFL. So if you take a look at Mark Sanchez's stats versus Sam Darnold's stats, Sam Darnold is considerably younger, has had considerably less starts than Mark Sanchez.
Yep.
And still is a productive quarterback with a trash offensive line in front of him. Okay? Can we say that Mark Sanchez has had a career percent? I think his career percentage is probably I would have to say 50%, like low 60%. Now, mind you, I'm guessing. I don't have any of these numbers up in front of me or anything, but Mark Sanchez walked into a situation in which he was handed the keys to a fully functional football team, which made back-to-back AFC championship games at that time. You put, I'm going to put this out there, and I don't even care. You put Sam Darnold on that team in 2009 and 2010, when the New York Jets went and played under Rex Ryan back-to-back AFC championship games, the Jets win one of those two Super Bowls that they miss out on.
I believe it.
I will come out and say it. Because Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Mark Sanchez, even though Mark Sanchez is the franchise leader in playoff wins. Okay? He has better mobility. He has better pocket presence. And believe it or not, from his rookie year to his sophomore year, playing behind, in my opinion, a worse offensive line than he had in his rookie year, took a step forward, despite the hindrance of not having the protection around him. And despite not having a lot of weapons at his disposal.
True. Yeah.
Okay?
Very true.
So this is again why I go and I kind of get beside myself when I look at Jets Twitter, I look at Jets Facebook, and it's very entertaining at times. But then there are also some times where I have to pull the gloves off and I have to say, okay, let's be a little bit of the voice of reason here, because you've got one end of the pendulum or the other end of the pendulum. So that's where I'm at. As far as the Jets draft is concerned, I'm looking for pieces on this team with Joe Douglas at the helm that he's going to be able to piece together a competitive and sustainably competitive football team, not just this year, not just next year, for the next 5 years. Now, you and I have had this conversation both on the air and off the air.
Yeah, we have.
What's the difference between the Jets and teams like the Ravens, teams like the Steelers, teams like the Patriots, teams like the 49ers? Every single year, their compatibility, the ability to be competitive, they're always in the playoff mix, and they sustain it.
Yeah.
Why? Because they've got a solid core of players. They interchange some players here and there. They bring in a couple of free agents here and there. Free agency is used to tweak different positions that maybe need a little bit of a lift.
Yeah.
Not to build the foundation of your football team. Your football team is built on the foundation of your draft, your core players. Okay? That's the difference between pedigree championship football teams and the New York Jets.
And it's always going to be that way until the Jets grow a set and actually draft the core pieces in place that they need to. They have one with Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold only looks as good as his offensive line. Conversely, on top of that, Patrick Mahomes just looks as great as his offensive line. Jimmy Garoppolo looks as great as his offensive line. Sam Darnold playing behind the 32nd offensive ranked line in the NFL, that won't get it done. That's why Jet fans are truly upset, because they look at Sam Darnold's numbers, and this is what makes me different from a lot of other sports talk hosts, and you the same way. I use my eyes. I don't use the numbers. The numbers will come and go. The numbers will come and go. Okay? I would rather use my eyes and go off of what I see, which is why some people hate my opinion of LeBron James, but that's a subject for another discussion. But at the same time, I'd rather use my eyes and go off of what I see and not use the stats, because Jets fans, and you and I have talked about this, man, use stats to compare Sam Darnold to Mark Sanchez, and that's a critical error. Sam Darnold still has room to grow.
Right, they do. I mean, there are Jet fans that compare Sam Darnold to other quarterbacks, not only in their division, but also around the league. And look, to be honest with you, it's kind of unfair to put Sam Darnold in that light at this moment in time, because I feel personally that the Jets haven't done right by him.
Right.
Because his first year, he was there with Todd Bowles. They had a plethora of offensive line injuries. They still had offensive line issues. Okay. Last year, the offensive line was a mash unit. Ryan Khalil, who was talked out of retirement by Joe Douglas, basically came here and robbed the Jets for $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because he just had so many issues being on that offensive line. Okay, and then the offensive line itself was a mash unit that Sam Darnold played behind. Sam Darnold throughout the entire season last year played behind 9 different offensive line combinations.
Yeah.
In a 16-game season. They had 11 different starters
on
that offensive line.
Yep.
And when you don't have the cohesiveness, when you don't have guys that are playing with each other week after week after week, there's chemistry issues. There's communication issues. There's assignment communication issues. There's blocking issues. Okay? And Sam Darnold, unfortunately, and also Le'Veon Bell to an extent, essentially suffered because of that.
Yeah.
If you fix that problem, then the offense can do what it's supposed to do. Then you can start building out. Your war, every war that you play on Sunday,
it's going to be in the trenches.
You have to win the battle of the trenches.
It's going to be in the trenches. Yep.
Right. It's basically your fat guys versus their fat guys.
Yep.
And your fat guys better be better than theirs.
Which is why the Ravens and the 49ers led the NFL in rushing. They were 1-2 since week 1. Since week 1, it was always the Ravens and the 49ers who led the league in rushing. They led the league. They led the league in rushing. And people want to tell me, A, they got there. B, you wonder how they got there. How about the fact that the 49ers hung 200 yards on the Green Bay Packers running?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, and mind you, one of the things that I always still argue with people when it's like, oh, the NFL is a passing league. The NFL is a passing league. Yeah, but guess what sets up the pass?
The run.
The run.
The run. The run sets up the pass. It's been proven time and time again. That's exactly why the Chiefs and the 49ers got to the Super Bowl. And unless I see different, I won't be surprised if they have a rematch in Tampa. To say it's been horrible would be a horrible understatement.
No, it's miserable. It's not been horrible. It's been miserable because basically you have the Jet fans the diehards that go to They go regardless of the weather. They tailgate. This is something that they look forward to. And they're paying money. They're paying tens of thousands of dollars for PSL tickets to go and watch to watch a product that couldn't beat a high school football team.
Right. Even with a 2 out of 3 on WFAN a couple of times.
Right. So,
it could be 2 out of 3 and the Jets would lose them because they haven't built their foundation.
Exactly. And this is the reason why, I crucified Mike McCagnon when he was here for criminally neglecting one of his missions in the offseason. He had said, I want to build a wall around Sam Darnold. I'm rebuilding that offensive line. And so, he didn't have to go out and break the bank and get, flashy names, like a Joe Thuney or Jack Conklin. Okay. He got high-level B-tier guys. They're blue-collar lunch pail guys. They're going to come to work every day with their pail. They're going to grind. They're going to work hard, and they're going to give you everything they got. And that's all that you can ask them to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all you can ask.
So,
the podcast is Weapons Hot. This is your host, CJ DeSimone. I may have to finagle something where I have him on each week to talk Jets and talk football with me. Great to have you on again, pal. Appreciate the time.
All righty. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the opportunity.
More, I say, after this.
Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
I have to admit something aloud that I've only admitted to myself silently. Without live sports, I don't know what to do, what to criticize, what to talk about. I do find stuff to talk about because, people and social media merge together. But I got to tell you something. Without having sports live, what have we missed so far? The Masters, that's gone by the wayside. The NCAA championships, men and women, that's been canceled, gone by the wayside. Baseball's gone. NCAA baseball is gone because they canceled all spring events. Major League Baseball is in a holding pattern. The NBA is in a holding pattern. The NHL is in a holding pattern. What do you do? There's not much to do, especially for sports fans. They've been running old games, and I have to say, being the old school man that I am, that's appreciated. It is really, really appreciated. But at the same time, what do you do? Well, for me, I've been binge watching the Holiday Baking Championships with my wife. I've been hard at work putting this show together for you fans that tune in, working on all my websites and keeping myself busy that way. I got enough old school sports on my computer to not fall by the wayside. And with a couple of leagues I've become disenchanted with, the NBA being one. So I miss it, but not that much. My wife's not a big-time baseball fan, but I am. And I was looking forward to seeing two things, which may still happen. One, can the Washington Nationals defend their title? And two, can the Chicago White Sox be their opponent? Oh, did I put something out there I should not have? Oh, well. But there's a lot of anticipation of when everything will come back. The NBA won't have an answer till May. I miss you know what I miss the most amidst this coronavirus pandemic? Aside of watching sports, I miss calling the games. Because those of you who know me or know of me, I also am a play-by-play announcer. And, I miss calling the games, man. I miss being at the high school or college games. Getting the lineups, especially now with baseball, and I haven't done a full baseball season since 2016. And I was really looking forward to this season to finally put an end to that drought. Unfortunately, that drought is probably going to continue for another few months as I've relocated and I haven't found a summer team yet, but I'm still looking. I just miss being at the games. I guess that's why I've been so enchanted with some of the professional leagues. I miss calling the games more than watching them. I miss seeing the camaraderie in person. I miss seeing the events in person and being there and lending my voice to the action. I haven't done a state championship for basketball since 2015 with Marquette Catholic. 2016, I got close, and then some stuff happened with a certain individual that decided to lie on me. That's a story for Snowman Unfiltered. But since then, it's been hit or miss for me. And now with this coronavirus pandemic, I just really miss being at the games. I really miss coming into a stadium or an arena with my equipment, setting up my equipment, talking to people that pass by, talking to people that are going to be assisting with the game, with the broadcast, I beg your pardon. I miss letting the people know when the broadcast is going to be live. I miss all of that. I guess that's one thing I miss more than anything else. Setting up, executing the broadcast, being tired after the broadcast, and that's a weird thing for me. But my friend Mark Farina, who was my baseball partner for 2 years, said it best. I get zoned in for a good 3 hours, and then my body and my brain just give out after it's all said and done. I miss that feeling. And I'm hoping soon to get back into it so I can continue to provide the voice that everyone looks for, that everyone talks about, and providing a service to the community that I'm in. That's the biggest thing that I miss doing.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy un smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a
Serious impulse control problem!
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
And that's hit pretty well and pretty deep to left. Gardner is going back, looking up. See you later!
You golden blank staggered black stone and a blinkety blank punk are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
Do you believe it?
Murphy picked it out of midair to Amani. Sent him on Roenick. Hartland! 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 Jeremy Roenick! After the giveaway was forced by Amani. What a play by Tony Amani. And Jeremy Roenick fired it home at the 123 mark.
free. Now, I've had a ton of great guests on this show in the almost 7 years that it's been active. But I want to tell you something. This next guest that I'm bringing to you guys has a history all its own. From Kansas City, Missouri, the home of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, please help me welcome Mr. Bob Kendrick, the president and the man in charge, and he's on the other side of the hotline right now. It is an honor, sir.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Tell me tell me about the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and how you became the president thereof. I am excited to hear this story.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is an interesting story in its own right, because I started here at the Negro Leagues Museum as a volunteer way back in 1993.
Wow.
Who knew? I had no idea that it would lead to one of the most gratifying career opportunities for me that I think I could have ever embarked on. I got introduced to the museum. The museum itself started in 1990, so we're celebrating 30 years as an organization this year, and we started in a little one-room office across the street from where the museum currently operates in a building called the Lincoln Building, the historic Lincoln Building, tiny little one-room office. And at that time, Brian, you had a number of Negro Leaguers, local Negro Leaguers who were still with us, and man, they literally took turns paying the monthly rent to keep that little office. And of course, with it, our hopes and dreams of one day building a facility that would pay rightful tribute not only to one of the great chapters in baseball history, but as now thousands of people each year are discovering one of the greatest chapters in American history.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm working at the Kansas City Star, the daily newspaper at that time, and I'm the senior copywriter in the Star's promotions department, which functioned as its in-house advertising agency. And I drew the assignment of promoting the museum's first ever traveling exhibition. That exhibition debuted in 1993 in a little storefront space right across the street from the museum. It is still touring the country today. As a matter of fact, it is on display at the Yogi Berra Museum right now. And of course, like most of everybody in this country, they're closed down due to the coronavirus.
Right.
But it's still touring. And we had some tremendous success. During the month of August of 1993, we drew some 10,000 people who came down to see that exhibition. And I think at that point, the officials here knew that we had something special. And the success of that promotional campaign that we did prompted them to ask if I would join their board of directors, which I did. And I served on the board for 5 years in a volunteer role, doing a lot of the marketing, PR, community relations, advertising things for the museum as a volunteer. And in 1998, I became the museum's first ever full-time director of marketing. And I served in that role for about 10 years. And then I left briefly in 2010 and came back in April of 2011 to become the museum's president. And now I'm in my 9th year as president of this great institution. So, as I mentioned, it has been one of the most fulfilling, gratifying things I think I could have ever done. I considered myself to be a baseball fan. And man, here was this entire chapter of baseball in American history I didn't have any idea about. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with the story, and I fell in love with the amazing athletes who made this story. And I just wanted to learn as much as I could. And you know what, Brian? I wanted everybody else to know. I didn't want to keep it to myself.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted everybody else. I was hoping everybody else would be as excited and would feel the same way about this history as I did. And then, as I tell people all the time, I met the late, great Buck O'Neil.
Oh,
and I tell people, once you're bitten by the Buck bug, it's a wrap. You just want to be on Buck's team. Yeah, so I feel so incredibly blessed that I got to travel all over this country with my dear friend Buck O'Neil, and while he was out there preaching the gospel of the Negro Leagues and the virtues of this museum to any and everybody who would listen, and I was there for the ride, man. And what an incredible ride it was, and now I get to carry on in his footsteps. I've picked up the baton from him, and trying to make sure that people are aware of this history, that the legacy of the Negro Leagues will play on long after there are no more Negro League players alive to attest to the greatness of these leagues.
And it's so incredible that you share that story. And I have always been of the vote that Black History Month doesn't just occur in February. It occurs every month.
No.
And the Negro Leagues are just a small proponent of that. Here's a piece of knowledge that a lot of people don't get. I understand. I mistakenly used the word understand. Here's a piece of knowledge a lot of people don't realize. That's the correct word I need. Kansas City has kept homage to the Negro Leagues by their name. The Kansas City Monarchs became the Kansas City Royals. And they stay within that realm. In fact, for a while in the majors, there was a day where certain teams would pay homage to the Negro Leagues by wearing their uniforms.
Yeah. And they still do. They still do. The cities that had significant Negro Leagues history, places like Pittsburgh, Detroit, Atlanta, Cleveland, of course, here in Kansas City, they still do annual salute to the Negro Leagues.
Yep.
And that's something that we are genuinely excited about and appreciative of, because what it is doing now is introducing a modern fan base to the history and heritage of our sport. You know, with this year being the centennial, the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, formed right here in Kansas City in 1920. And of course, the great Kansas City Monarchs were one of the original 8 teams that helped form the Negro Leagues in 1920.
Yes, indeed.
And so this was a really pivotal year for us. And we're hoping that we can salvage as much of this year-long centennial celebration that we were planning, you know, after we move beyond this coronavirus situation that we're all enduring right now. And so, but yeah, no, it's always wonderful to see the current day athlete put on that Negro League uniform.
Yeah.
And to wear those pants up high, like they did in the Negro Leagues, and wear them a little baggy like they did in the Negro Leagues, man, and maybe tilt that cap a little bit.
Maybe tilt the cap a little bit, yeah. Just to keep that time-honored tradition of the Negro Leagues alive in the way that the uniforms were worn. And I've seen lots of film on it. I've seen lots of pictures on it, but it's nothing like seeing the homage being paid live. And I've had a chance a couple of times to see it with my beloved Chicago White Sox when they donned the Chicago American Giants jerseys.
Yeah. They do a great job in Chicago as well. And of course, every year now they do the Double Duty Classic, named for the late, great Ed Double Duty Radcliffe. And for those who may not have heard that name before, you know, number one, they had great nicknames in the Negro League.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, if you didn't have a great nickname, you probably weren't a good player.
Right.
And the great Ted, the great Ted Double Duty Radcliffe earned his nickname Double Duty when the great sports writer Damon Runyon saw Duty catch a Satchel Paige shutout in the first game of a doubleheader, pulled off the catcher's gear, took the mound, and threw a shutout in the second game of the doubleheader, and said he was worth the price of 2 admissions. He was nicknamed Double Duty. He was nicknamed Double Duty until the day he died at age 103 in Chicago in 2005. And Duty was one of the great characters in the Negro Leagues. Man, he would inscribe on his chest protector, "Thou shalt not steal."
Right.
Yeah, he was as colorful as they can.
Oh, man. 2005 is unfortunately when he passed away. And in 2005, all my Chicago fans know my Southside White Sox won it all that year. So it was a celebration all the way around, not just of Double Duty.
Kenny Williams.
But
Kenny Williams, who was the GM of the White Sox at that time.
Yes, indeed.
And Yeah, we honored him with the Rube Foster Award. Rube Foster's another guy who lived and died in Chicago.
Yes.
He was from Calvert, Texas, but Rube Foster formed the Negro Leagues here in Kansas City in 1920. And so our Executive of the Year Award is named for Rube Foster. And so Kenny is named the Rube Foster Award. And I'll never forget, he stood, when he accepted that award, he looked dead into the eye of Buck O'Neil and said, "We will bring the World Series champion White Sox to the Negro Leagues Museum next year."
Yes.
He delivered on his promise. He delivered on his promise. They are the first and only Major League team to bring all of their players.
Yep.
Now, we've had a number of players visit the museum, but never had we had an entire team. And Kenny fulfilled his promise to Buck O'Neil. And I'm sure there were some guys who didn't really want to come.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get out of bed and come down and do it. But once they were here, they were blown away. And one of my favorite memories, Jose Contreras, who was on that club.
Yes.
From Cuba.
Yep.
From Cuba.
Yep.
When he walks into the museum, and we have what we call the Field of Legends, which features 10 life-size statues of Negro League greats who are in position, cast in position as if they were playing a game, and they represent the first group of Negro Leaguers to be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guy who is at the plate batting was his fellow countryman, the great Martin Dehigo.
Yes.
Now, Martin Dehigo nicknamed El Maestro,
Yep.
the master,
Yes.
because he could do it all.
Yep.
Played all 9 positions, played all 9 of them well. He is the only baseball player in the history of this sport to be enshrined into 5 different countries' baseball halls of fame.
Yep.
This brother is in the Mexican, Cuban, Venezuelan, Dominican, and in Cooperstown. And so when he walked in and saw his fellow countrymen standing proudly at the plate, he lit up. He lit up, because I can be honest, you can't come out of Cuba and not know the name Martin Dehigo.
Right.
He was that good. But I don't know if he realized that he had played in the Negro Leagues, and that was probably the last person he expected to see when he walked in the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. So now you've instantly bridged that gap, because the Negro Leagues opened its doors to any and everybody.
Yes.
They didn't care what color you were, man.
Right.
All they cared was, can you play?
Can you play baseball? Absolutely.
That's it.
Can you play? And Jose Contreras is one of my favorite pitchers on that team. The fearsome force of Contreras,
man, he had
Burley.
that Negro League swag.
Oh, yeah. Contreras, Burley, Garland, Freddie Garcia, the fearsome foursome. But what scared me about Contreras, and someone asked me this, if you could pick a pitcher that you did not want to face, for me, it'll be Jose Contreras, and here's the reason. I loved when he threw that fork ball, but I would hate it when it became an out pitch against me.
It was nasty. It was nasty.
Anybody who watched Jose Contreras, he was good when he was with the Yankees, but when he got to the White Sox in 2005, it was just on. He figured it out, especially second half of that year, and his fastball wasn't above like 93 or 94, but he knew where to place it. And having A.J. Pierzynski as his catcher was awesome, because he got Contreras to use that fastball, and not only use his fastball, but trust his fastball. Because,
and I think that's the thing.
Yeah, because when Contreras came in, he always wanted to throw his forkball, which was nasty in and of itself. But A.J. Pierzynski got in his head and said, you got to know when to use that forkball. So as Ed Farmer said, and God rest Ed Farmer's soul, when he did a post-game interview with Don Cooper after they clinched the pennant in 2005, the fastball became the front pitch, the forkball became the out pitch. And that forkball was nasty.
Well, we had so much fun with them, man. Hawk Harrelson and everybody.
Yeah.
Ozzie Guillen was with us. And, you know, when Ozzie left the Negro Leagues Museum, he went out and started really preaching the fact that every Major League team should be required to visit the Negro Leagues Museum. It hit him in such a way. And that makes us all feel good in terms of the work that we're doing and the respect that is given to those players in the Negro Leagues. Man, I tell people all the time, these guys could play.
Yes.
It's this belief that if it didn't happen in the major leagues, then it didn't happen. And we're here to tell you, no, it happened, it happened in glorious fashion.
Oh, yeah, it did. It did. Man, this has been such a delightful conversation. Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm going to just put this out there. One day, I would love an opportunity to do a show from your facility in Kansas City when the time presents itself.
Oh, man, let's do it. When the time is right, you just let me know. We would love to have you here. And we're going to feed you some of that great Kansas City barbecue. I know it.
I'll tell you what, one of the times I was in Kansas City, someone warned me about the barbecue. I said, why are you warning me about the barbecue? Because you won't stop eating it. I said, man, please, I have a game. And I had a game that night. I was covering games for Chicago State University. I said, I have a game. I'm not going to go to Kemper Arena, the venerable Kemper Arena. I'm not going to go to Kemper Arena full on barbecue. The barbecue's not going to do nothing to me. I couldn't have told a bigger lie that night, because when I got to Kemper Arena, and anybody who has eaten any kind of barbecue knows, if you have some real good barbecue, you're going to get sleepy really quick.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I'd had a barbecue meal, which included, God help me, homemade cornbread, and I had it at a place that was 3 blocks away from Kemper Arena. I said, I'm going to walk this off, and I'm going to be fine. I lied. I got to Kemper Arena. I walked in. I got situated. And the biggest mistake I made, and I'm having fun with this, folks, the biggest mistake I made, I sat down.
It's great stuff, man. And, you know how cities sometimes hype their food, and you find out, well, it's not really as good as they say. Nah, not with Kansas City barbecue.
Not
it
with
is the
Kansas
real
City
deal.
barbecue at all. Okay.
And this is a special place, so we would love, if ever the opportunity come for you to do the show from here, man, we would absolutely love it.
Oh man, consider it happening then, folks. When the tour starts, because the tour is being put together, and we need some sponsors for that tour, drop an email to snowmanofthemorning@gmail.com. One of the places that we will stop is the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, but it's in its planning stages right now. We got to get some sponsors, and we got to put it together. That, my friends, is Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. It has been an honor and a delight to have you, sir.
Man, it's been my pleasure. And anytime you want to chat, please don't hesitate. We love this opportunity, and we hope that people will visit our website at nlbm.com to learn more about the museum. And, of course, if you're so inclined, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at NLBMPrez, Prez. And we connected on Facebook. I'm brand new to Facebook. I'm just learning it.
Yes, we did.
I'm learning my way around it, but we appreciate the opportunity.
I'd also love for you guys to be an advertiser of this program. I'm a big baseball rat, being from Chicago, and I'd love to have you guys be an advertiser of the program if that's possible.
Well, that's something that we will absolutely take into consideration, and you can send me some information detailing, and we'll take a look at it. And hopefully we won't be experiencing this shutdown much longer. We can get back to the operation of what we do here on a daily basis, and that's get people into this museum. And so,
absolutely.
Hopefully this, like I said, this coronavirus shutdown won't impact us much longer. So, we're looking forward to getting back in the swing of things.
Well, we got our first stop on our planned tour to help celebrate my personal and my company's 25th anniversary in broadcasting, and it'll be at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. We'll give you all the details once they come together and once all the plans are put in place. Thanks a lot, my friend. Truly appreciate the time.
It has been my pleasure. No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Got more for you folks after this.
Hey, boys and girls, I have a question for you. What are you doing listening to the Talking Heads? Turn on Snowman in the morning for real sports talk. He has the hot takes that will make you melt.
Real cool, man.
Now, folks, there are a lot of people that I bring on the show and they're able to talk about their teams. This guy ain't. My good friend Cravante Hurd has jumped on with me, and I promise I didn't do this to make you depressed or upset, my friend.
Oh, man. You know how to press my buttons, man. You know how to press them, man.
How long have we been friends now? 4 or 5 years?
I lost count.
Now, you got all excited all through Instagram, and I remember this, and I was so happy for you. The night the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, I didn't think you could scream that loud.
Nah, I didn't think so either, because honestly, I didn't think it was going to happen. I'm telling you, I didn't think it was going to happen, man.
One of the proud members of the Flex Zone, Cravante Hurd, joining me. Now, I got to ask, how crazy did you go when the Nationals won it all?
Pretty crazy. I went pretty crazy. And I went crazy because since you've known me, I've always talked about there being some type of dark cloud being over the nation's capital as far as sports is related. Because I mean, if you look at all of our teams, except like as of late, I mean, I'm talking about when we first met each other, like when we first started conversing about sports.
Yep.
At the time, all of our teams were struggling. Like from hockey, I think hockey was doing the best at the time. Basketball was kind of up and down. Football was in the dirt, and baseball was good. Baseball was good, but it's just that we just couldn't get over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what made the Nationals win so great and so like heartfelt, like almost brought me to tears, because the Nationals have been good for quite some time. But it's just that I felt like every time we ran into the Dodgers or every time we ran into whoever our first opponent was, we would lose. But we were always the favorite because of our bullpen. First of all, we beat the Dodgers. Let me tell you, you understand. I was excited off the bat. I'm like, we finally got over the hump.
So excited. I was at work before the pitch before Kendrick lifted the grand slam. I saw they had tied it at 3. I heard Juan Soto's home run thanks to Charlie Slows and Dave Jagler, because I have that I have that app on my phone, WJFK, which is the flagship station of the Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
I had my earpiece in illegally, of course, and I was listening to Charlie and Dave take us through the 9th inning and then get to the 10th inning, and Dave was on the call, and I heard him get excited when Kendrick drove that one-strike pitch over center field, and I was working in a hospital, so I couldn't scream like I wanted to.
Oh,
I couldn't scream. Oh. I had to do something. I had to do it fast, so I went outside and went into my car and let loose for a good 10 minutes. Because I'm a White Sox fan. I'm from Chicago, but I'm also a big fan of the Nats. I've been a big fan of the Nats for a while. When I screamed in my car, a couple of my coworkers, I kid you not, came outside and they saw my car bouncing, and they thought something was going on. They thought something was going on. So unbeknownst to me, security was alerted, and so was my boss.
Get out of town, man. Get out of town, man.
When my boss came to my car, he saw me, pumping my fist, and he told everybody, he's okay, everybody go back in. He was about to leave, and I looked at my phone. I said, I better get back inside. I got back inside, and he immediately yanked me into the office. He said, I need to see you in my office now. And I'm like, oh, damn, I got busted. I came in the office, closed the door, and he looked at me, and he had this big grin on his face. And he said, "You must be listening to a baseball game." I said, "I just heard the Nationals beat the Dodgers." He said, "Thank God. Go back to work."
Oh my gosh. My gosh.
Now, I hate picking on this guy because he's one of my best friends, folks, but what are y'all going to do about John Wall?
Here you go. You always know. I feel like you do these things on purpose.
Whatever do you mean?
What are we gonna do with John Wall, huh?
What are
John
y'all
Wall hasn't played in about 2 going on 3 years. It seems like,
mm-hmm.
And we don't know if the guy is really healthy. So once he gets back to camp, and unfortunately with all the goofiness that's going on in the world and this virus that's going around, we won't know anytime soon, which kind of makes all this worse. And another thing that makes it worse is that Bradley Beal is playing out of his mind.
Yep.
So
and
it's
Bradley Beal, I think, is out of there. I hate to say it.
I think unfortunately, I think he's out of there too, because as soon as he hits the open market, he's going to have suitors.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
going to have a lot of suitors, and I don't know if our front office will want to put more money into him when John Wall is sitting over here and we're not sure what's going on with him.
Right.
It's really we're in like one of the worst positions as an organization in basketball. It's terrible.
Let's talk some more NBA. Cravante Hurd joining me. And I'm going to say this team's name the correct way, so people are going to have to forgive me for being old school, but the Bullets are in deep trouble. The Washington Wizards, a.k.a. the Washington Bullets, are in deep trouble because you got John Wall sitting out for an who knows length of time. Bradley Beal is playing out of his mind, and he's out of there. You got rid of Saransky, who's now with the Bulls, and the Bulls just made a couple of changes in their front office, and they're getting ready to be on the rise. What do y'all do?
First of all, he got fired on his day off.
Yep.
He got fired on his
day off.
He
got fired on his day off. He got fired on his day off. I guess, and I talked about this yesterday on the program, I guess the fans said enough is enough. All right? I guess the fans said enough is enough. But what do you do in Washington? What are y'all going to do?
Man. That's a good question, man. I wish I knew. The only thing we can do is, well, God damn, this is really tough, because it's like the perfect storm for us, perfect situation for us was that John Wall and Bradley Beal would be on the same page on the court at the same time, performing outstanding, and we would have arguably we would have a formidable backcourt. But when one's injured, and it's funny because John Wall's playing well, Bradley Beal was injured. Now it's vice versa.
Reversed.
But Bradley Beal's playing out, but he's playing out of his mind. So unfortunately, we're going to become one of those teams that's going to sink for a couple years, because I know they're going to play this wrong. Whatever they do, we're going to end up on the short end of the stick, because we're going to end up losing Bradley Beal, and we're going to have John Wall, but we're not going to know what we're going to have with John Wall. I know Bradley Beal's out the door.
Yeah, Beal's out of there.
We got to see. We want to hit the draft. We're going to have to hit the draft. The draft is our best option at this point.
Yeah. Now,
you know I don't care for that coach either.
We don't have to talk about that.
Nah. I was like, man,
that's obvious.
I don't know. He doesn't bring them to the next level. He doesn't get them to that next level. He's not that guy.
He really isn't. Now, I got another question for you. I put a rumor out there that there would be not one but 2 big men available for a certain team in San Francisco, California, that would restart their dynasty. And people think I'm crazy when I put these 2 names out there. So I want to get your thoughts on this. The 2 names I put out there, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Karl Anthony Towns.
Yep. You're crazy. Yep. Yep, you're crazy. I don't know if that's what you want to hear, but yep, you're crazy.
Why do you think I'm crazy when I say that? Why do you think I'm crazy when Karl Anthony Towns wants out of Minnesota and the Bucks would probably get beaten by Toronto and Giannis wants out of Milwaukee? Why am I crazy?
So I don't think I think Milwaukee will do whatever it takes. Well, they should. That should. Not say they will, because we don't know what they're going to do. Because I mean, hell, didn't they let go Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Lou Alcindor at the time?
I rest my case.
But let's fast forward to the present. They haven't seen any success since that, right?
Yep.
So why would you go back? Why would you go back to doing what put you in the hole for decades? You finally got a generational talent.
Yeah, true.
Why would you let him go? You need to do whatever you can to keep your superstars, because he's not just a great basketball player. He's box office. Folks come to see him. There's a lot of avenues to this business we call basketball. And when a player satisfies, when he checks off more boxes than one, there's more of a reason to keep him.
True.
So, I mean, they shouldn't. Now, to the other guy, Karl Anthony Towns may be out of Minnesota. I agree with you. He may be out of Minnesota. He may be about through with him. Hell, I think Minnesota may be blowing up their team a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna lie to you. So letting Karl Anthony Towns go, and if he gets the fishing around that market, California would look real sexy at the time.
And you know,
anytime.
and you know that management in Golden State are licking their chops to go after him. They're licking their chops to go after him because the Warriors have a top 3 pick in their back pocket. Let's just call it the way we see it. They have a top 3 pick in their back pocket unless a ping pong ball decides to fall through the floor, come back through the ceiling, and tap an executive on the head again, which I don't see happening. The Warriors have a top 3 pick in their back pocket. Who's to say they won't make a trade for Karl Anthony Towns and a couple of second-round picks, rebuild their draft capital, and rebuild their bench, and do the same thing that they did 4 years ago when Kevin Durant surprised everybody?
Sure. I can see that. And I meant you're crazy. This the Greek freak part, because with the goofiness that's going on with Karl Anthony Towns and the Minnesota and Minnesota team is like it's getting to a head. It's really getting to a head. Like
it's been at a head. It's been at a head for
mismanaging.
It's been at a head for 2 years. And Jimmy Butler is part of that problem.
Minnesota has been a team that has horribly mismanaged players and known for it.
Kevin Garnett, hello.
Karl Anthony Towns leaving is not far-fetched at all. And if he leaves, now it depends on how he leaves. If he leaves via free agency, that's one thing. But if it's via trade, I don't think Minnesota would do deals with the Warriors.
Oh, no?
I don't think so.
People thought the same thing at Oklahoma City 4 years ago.
Well, Oklahoma is one of those cities I didn't think deserved a team. So, whatever. Whatever.
Finally,
give me Seattle back.
Finally, somebody that agrees with me. Can we please, and let's just go to that point next. Can we please bring back the Seattle Supersonics?
I'm saying, man.
What the hell's in Oklahoma besides the Sooners?
Nothing. The Thunder. The Thunder now. That's it.
Did
the only thing. Oh, wait. Who okayed that? Like, who okayed? Yeah, you know what? Oklahoma City. I like it. Who okayed that? What board okayed this?
That was going on for 3 years. Because remember, Hurricane Katrina displaced New Orleans.
Right.
Okay? And Clay Bennett saw his opportunity because for a while, like Kansas City and Omaha shared the Kings, New Orleans and Oklahoma City shared the Hornets. Don't ask me how Oklahoma City fully got in play. I don't know. I really don't know. But be that as it may, be that as it may, it happened. And 2008 saw the end of an era with the Seattle Supersonics, which is why I have about 100 Seattle Supersonic games on my jump drive, but that's another story. I cannot, and I said this on your program, I can't stand the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay? I cannot will not stand OKC.
B Snow, listen, I hate Oklahoma City now. When they first came out, they were very, very exciting. I mean, young team, great players, and they had a great nucleus that if they could have kept them together, could have been a force to be reckoned with in the West and the NBA as a whole.
Give you that.
But because of the mismanagement of their front staff,
have we heard that before?
Their front office, it completely dismantled. Like in the course of like 2 to 3 years, that team has been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Like completely destroyed, and that's when I was like, "See, that's why y'all can't have nice things. That's why y'all can't have nice things." And that's how I feel about that. But
you know what really destroyed OKC?
Once James Harden.
You know what really destroyed OKC? And it wasn't even James Harden leaving. James Harden playing that on his own. You know what destroyed Oklahoma City? Losing to Golden State after being up 3-1. It killed them. They haven't been the same since.
But you know what? I think that was the nail in the coffin. I think that might have been like the last strike. I think the first one started when around the James Harden thing. That was probably like the first one. But that was definitely the last one. That was the nail in the coffin. Like, we'll never be able to overcome this.
That was the last straw.
It's kind of like the Seahawks and the Patriots in that Super Bowl.
Malcolm Butler.
Have you noticed that it's only like 2 players from that Super Bowl team that's still on the team?
And one of them is Russell Wilson.
Exactly. And one guy's going to defense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
I think
it's
only
thing.
two or three guys, something like that.
And as far as the Seattle Seahawks go this year, folks, I hate to say this to my fans in the Pacific Northwest, don't expect anything big, okay? Because until you unseat the 49ers, it's over, all right? And I'm putting this out there. I'm putting this out there too.
Go ahead, say. I think I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
Nobody's beating San Francisco for a while. Nobody's beaten San Francisco for a while.
Okay, so I wanted to say this. Arizona low-key is coming. Arizona is coming.
You mean the same you mean the same Arizona that lost in heartbreaking fashion twice to Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, I love the fact that they traded for DeAndre Hopkins.
Steal.
It's a steal. It's an absolute steal. But here is the problem, and it's going to be a problem until they decide to fix it. They got the wrong man coaching them.
I can't. Okay. So let me say this. I didn't think he was qualified for that job. When he first got it, I didn't think he was quite qualified to be a head coach. But I think he's teamed up. He's in the perfect situation to succeed because he's teamed up with Kyler Murray. So
I'll give you that.
Them together, they could build a really, really great offense. Young, fast, college-like offense, but with a pro twist.
But they're two sides to the ball.
If they could be patient. If they could be patient.
They've been patient in Arizona. They've been patient in Arizona since Ben Roethlisberger threw a Super Bowl winning touchdown that shouldn't have counted. They've been patient.
Listen. Obviously they're not, because look at Josh Rosen. They weren't that patient. I'm saying on the coaching side of the game, if they're going to be patient, because Kyler Murray, I don't know if he's necessarily one of those quarterbacks where you can put him with anybody and he'll succeed. I think if he's with a young and innovative coach, I think that's where he's going to succeed. He would have had to be with like a Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, one of those type of offensive minds to thrive.
Hey, you know something? Kyler Murray and Kyle Shanahan. Wow. Imagine those two minds fitting together. But you see, the 49ers already have their quarterback of the future. A couple different plays, and they have 6 Super Bowls. And I will put this out there. They're going to make a couple different plays, and they will have their 6th Super Bowl. But I'll spill that tea later on in the year. But I understand where you're going. While we're talking about the NFC West, it's going to be between the Cardinals and the 49ers. The Rams are done. The Seahawks are no. Change that. The Seahawks are done. The Rams are worse.
Listen, the Rams did this mess to themselves. They did this to themselves a couple years ago.
They mortgaged the future for a player that didn't give them much. And now Todd Gurley is gone. Brandon Cooks is gone. They mortgaged the future. And I hate saying this. And you and I know a lot of Rams fans. We have a lot of friends in common.
Yep.
And you know I also speak the truth when the tea gets knocked over. I don't spill it. I knock the sumbitch over, okay? Here's the tea I'm going to spill, and it goes like this. They mortgaged their future on a quarterback that hasn't done a doggone thing since the NFC Championship game. They got lucky in New Orleans.
And that's tough because I felt like Jared Goff was not as good as he portrayed. I thought the Rams defense was really, really, really good. And he had some really good weapons around him. But I felt like Jared Goff, he wasn't that guy to put them over the top. He was more so down for the ride, if anything.
Yeah, and you saw it in the playoffs.
Not that guy, I know you feel a certain way about the Seahawks, but I feel like if you put Russell Wilson there, I think Russell Wilson would have put them over the top.
Wrong.
I think he would have put them over the top.
Wrong.
I think so.
I don't.
Jared Goff, no. Russell Wilson, yes.
I don't trust. Look, Russell Wilson is a Seahawk, and he'll be a Seahawk for life, and thank God for that. Put him with the Rams, and it's even worse. Because the management's not in place.
I mean, at the time when the Rams were at their height.
Okay.
Not now.
Okay.
Not now.
Not now.
Can't nobody help the Rams. Can't nobody help the Rams. Can't nobody help the Rams now.
The Rams are going to be under 500.
I'm talking about like when Jared Goff. I'm talking about when they was like in NFC championships and they went to the Super Bowl. I was like, I think Russell Wilson would have got them in that Super Bowl. Would have got them that Super Bowl. Jared Goff, he's not quite there yet, and honestly, I don't think he'll ever be. And he's with Sean McVay.
Yeah. Jared Goff is not that guy. Todd Gurley was not that guy. Todd Gurley was not that guy. Because if Todd Gurley was that guy, he'd have found a way to not only play, but beat San Francisco in their house. And the 49ers held them to 7 points in Los Angeles. And I keep referencing the 49ers because A, they're defending NFC champions, and B, they got one hell of a defense.
Yes. Even though they let a nice little piece go, but they do still have a very formidable defense.
Solomon Thomas is going to step in great for DeForest Buckner.
I hope so.
That was a money move. That was absolutely a money move because the 49ers are busy stacking up their draft capital like they used to do when they ruled the 80s. But I got a fellow out of South Carolina that could easily step in. When I did my mock draft, and yes, for the first time in my career, in my sports talk career, I did a mock draft. And at 13, I gave the 49ers.
Oh, man, B-So, you should have called me, man. I like doing mock drafts.
You know what we'll do? Before the actual draft, you and I will do one, okay? The person I have mocked for the 49ers is a fella named Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina.
I heard. Yep. I'm very familiar. These linemen. Yep. I'm very familiar.
I am just.
He's saying they're saying like he's right behind Chase. He's behind Chase Young.
Yep. He is a playmaker. Javon Kinlaw. Put Javon Kinlaw on one side and Nick Bosa on the other side.
Ooh. Now, would he be better at end or interior?
I don't know. I don't know. It's going to take. It's going to take a couple games.
Derek Brown is out there as well.
Right. It'll take a couple games. And I still believe Kinlaw goes to the 49ers, but it's going to take a couple games for them to find out where he really belongs. You knew where Bosa belongs. He's on the edge. You knew where DeForest Buckner belonged.
Come on, David.
He
you
was on
gotta
the
know
edge.
that.
At the same time, they've lined Bosa up inside too, and Bosa just terrorized people. Nick Bosa just terrorized people.
In certain packages,
right?
He will give the interior offensive line hell. Hell.
I mean, he scared Aaron Rodgers. All right. How many times can you see a defensive lineman line up outside or inside, frighten the daylights out of Aaron Rodgers? For that matter, let's go down the list of the quarterbacks he terrorized last year. Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff. We ain't got to say nothing about what he did to Jared Goff. We don't have to say anything about what he did to Russell Wilson in San Francisco or in Seattle.
Truth. Yeah, he terrorized a lot. But that's what he does. That's the tree that he comes from.
Yeah. Joey Bosa.
That's just what he does.
Here's a thought. He
gets to his spot.
Yeah.
He gets to his spot so fast, and it's like linemen, no matter what, whether they're like faster linemen or like stronger linemen, he has a counter move for everything.
Yep.
And he gets to his spot, like where the quarterback, not necessarily where the quarterback is standing. He gets to like where the arm is, like where the arm is about to release. And get that ball. Like, that's his thing.
Here's a funny Here's part of a funny conversation you and I had back in January. We had this off the air. I mean, everybody was so excited to see Kirk Cousins finally win a playoff game. Everybody in Minnesota was so excited, and everybody was so confident with Minnesota going to San Francisco. And then the 49er defense terrorized the Vikings into a 3-and-out. And Jimmy Garoppolo took the 49ers right downfield, 8 plays, 61 yards, and it was 7-0. And you and I both said the same thing. This game is over.
I tell you, Minnesota was probably the only city that was happy because, first of all, they messed up my playoff pool, because
you picked New Orleans
because when they went down there and beat they beat New Orleans.
They beat New Orleans.
They beat New Orleans, right?
New Orleans.
God dang. Yeah, messed up my football pool. So I think they were the only ones that was happy about that. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, and I'm telling you, you already know me. I'm very familiar with Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, because now they're playing against the 49ers. I was like, that's probably the worst thing that could have happened. Probably the worst thing. And you usually don't say that after a win. But after that one, I was like, this is not good. This is not going to be good. It's not going to be good at all.
I actually had someone message me. You're going to love this. I actually had someone message me saying, watch out for Kirk Cousins. And they know I'm a 49er fan.
Up.
I responded back to this person, are you bleeping kidding me? And he says,
that's what you just said. Shut up.
He posed another question behind it. And the question he posed behind it went like this, and I kid you not, I absolutely kid you not, when I got this question. What is the 49er defense going to do to Kirk Cousins? Beat him up, was my simple response.
The worst thing that happened to Kirk Cousins is Dalvin Cook going down. That was the worst thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's all on you. Because at least Dalvin Cook is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good at the running back position. He could catch. He could do a multitude of things. And he could cover up a lot of things offensively for Kirk Cousins too.
Absolutely.
But when he went down, I was like, oh, it's all on Kirk Cousins. It's a wrap. It's a wrap because I know Kirk Cousins very well. He's not that guy who's going to take your team over the top. He's not a playmaker. He's not that guy. Trust me, as a Redskins fan, I know he's not that guy.
You saw it up close.
Now, granted, his time at DC was not all his fault.
No.
But nonetheless, I know what type of guy he is, and he's not that guy. He's not that guy.
He really isn't.
And matter of fact, I'll tell you, B Snow, I'll tell you, I've adopted a new way of evaluating, trying to evaluate players and talent in general, that's what it is. It's either you're that guy or you're not that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to not be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're not that guy and you're getting guaranteed contract, something's up.
You know, that made Paul Allen happy, the longtime voice of the Vikings. Because I heard some of his highlight calls after they played San Francisco, and I've never heard him that despondent except for anytime Brett Favre went down. And I'm a big fan of Paul Allen. I am a huge fan of Paul Allen. Okay? I'm a huge fan of Paul Allen as a play-by-play guy. But I think he realized early that his Vikings were overmatched.
I mean, you had no choice. Listen, once Cook was not able to go, that's it. Dalvin Cook. If they were for them to win, Dalvin Cook would have had to have a hell of a game.
He would have to have 200 yards, and you ain't getting 200 yards rushing against that front four. That's not good.
You ain't getting.
You're not getting 100 against that front four.
That's what I'm saying.
You ain't getting 100 against that front four. Okay. And what was funny, the game was on a Saturday. My wife and I were sitting watching it, and she looked at me and she says, "You know you're gonna get excited, right?" Yes. And she just looked. You're just sitting very still. We don't have the ball yet. And then the 49ers got the ball, marched it right into the end zone, and not only did I make my wife laugh, I frightened my dog.
Aww.
When I jumped up and said touchdown really loud and I was running around the house, my wife was cracking up laughing. When I finally sit down, my dog hopped in my lap and just went to work licking my face going, "It's okay, you scared me, Daddy. I understand now." And every time I scored a touchdown, I got excited and the dog was chasing me around the house. Oh boy. But it was fun. It's absolutely fun. One more thing.
Absolutely.
Proud Papa. How's that been going?
It's different, man. Unfortunately, she's a distance away, so that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I try my best to see her, every day via FaceTime, but because of the coronavirus is going on, it's not safe. It's really not safe for her to be around too many people right now at
Understood.
her such a tender age. Like I said, she just turned 4 months. So that's a tough part. But this is just another adjustment that it's kind of tough. It's tough right now, but I mean, looking at her is just so much. I feel with so much joy as she grows. Like I tell you, every month she looks different.
Yeah,
every month, man.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. We're gonna get through this so you can see your baby girl. All right, I'm cheering you on. We're gonna make sure we get through this pandemic so fathers can be reunited with their children. I know some distance has to be involved, but it's going to happen. Quirvante Hurd, one of the members of the Flex Zone, joining me. We just hopped all over the place, man. Thank you for the time. I totally appreciate it.
Listen, man, thank you for having me on, and we do this all the time, and it's great. I love it.
We're going to have to make this a weekly segment, man. We're just going to have to.
Hey, man, listen, man, just call me.
You got it.
Just call me.
You got it, man.